Hello and welcome to the Outlaws podcast with Kate and Shayla for professionals unlearning the rules of work and life. Ditch the shoulds and build what fits. Today we're talking about one of the most frustrating, exhausting, quietly universal experiences in modern work, feeling stuck.
Maybe you're stuck in a job you've outgrown. Maybe you're stuck at a level that does not reflect your skills. Maybe you're stuck because you've got children, a mortgage, a life that only works because your current job gives you just enough flexibility to stay afloat. Or maybe you're stuck because the thought of starting again somewhere new makes your brain fold in on itself.
Whatever your version is, you're not alone. And it's not a motivation problem. It's structural, emotional, financial, logistical, and it's deeply human. So today we're unpacking what stuck really looks like, why smart, capable people stay stuck for years, and how to start making some moves when the cost of change feels impossibly high.
So today's episode began with a message from one of our listeners who's brilliant, capable, and very well established in her career, but she told us that she felt completely stuck. And she doesn't not want to change, but she just genuinely cannot think of a way to make that happen. So she said there's no time or mental space just to think about other options.
Yeah, and she was worried about her salary and the seniority that she currently has. She said she's lost a lot of her confidence. And also there's that thing of the devil you know, right? Like, wow.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Kylie Minogue song. Continue.
The devil you know. Is that a Kylie Minogue song?
It certainly is. And I think you're trolling me at this point with just putting words like you're introducing concepts into this podcast because you want me to sing.
Yeah, well, it could
Don't
be
you?
the case.
And this is a very serious topic, so it's not appropriate for me to start singing Kylie Minogue's Better, the Devil You Know. But it's true what they say.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't think it's true, but that's how she certainly feels like that. So, and the golden handcuffs. So we thought, because we hear this all the time, really, don't we? They're not, these aren't rare things. Everyone's feeling this. It's so easy to feel stuck where you are and to just not be able to figure it out. So we thought that we would do this episode because, you know, when listeners contact us, we love it. And so we thought it was a great idea when she said, it'd be great if you could do an episode to talk about how to get unstuck. And as with everything, Kate and I aren't the experts, but we thought we'd chat through some sort of key themes, I suppose, that come up for people.
Yeah.
And to maybe talk through some ideas about how people might be able to move out of that.
And I think the reality is too, is that we're not going to necessarily have an answer because there are certain times when small tweaks may be all that can be done or not.
Yeah. And I mean, that's, I think, the theme of this podcast too. We're not suggesting that everyone should leave their jobs and, you know, move to Europe. But it's about trying to make small intentional changes that might make things feel a bit more aligned for people. So I think that's
loosening the grip. And trying to sort of almost build a little bit of wiggle room into that life.
Yeah, and I think to question why it is that you're feeling like that. You know, is that a real reason or is it one of these rules that we've internalized and that we think that we actually can't break?
Yeah.
But when you really think about it, maybe you can. So
yeah, because that's the reality, isn't it? That actually you can change things.
Yeah.
I mean, the consequences of the change may not be what you want. If you have a mortgage and you can get rid of that mortgage by selling the house, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not necessarily a long-term solution because then you've got to worry about where you're going to live. But you know, but there's always an option. I think it just may not be all of the options you look at may not actually be what you want, but it doesn't mean those options aren't available to you. And in this podcast, we tend to talk about sort of small changes because most people don't want to burn their lives down and sell the house, buy a boat and sail the world for 5 years. But some people have done that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is all about deciding the consequences of the change. Are you comfortable with those? And if you're not comfortable with them, again, interrogating why am I not comfortable with that? Is it because I feel like society would think that was a bad idea or is it genuinely a bad idea, you know?
Right. Right, exactly. Because some of the things we can internalize and then it'll guide our decision making. But actually, when we start interrogating that, it might be that there is wiggle room. So it is
Yeah,
important, I think, to interrogate everything that is making us feel that we are stuck and just seeing whether the things we're telling ourselves about, oh, I have got no choice there, are actually true.
yeah, absolutely. So the number one thing that people feel is, I don't have time. And because they're so busy, right? People are busy. We actually know what modern life is like. So
Yeah,
big careers, often with really big expectations, people with caregiving responsibilities, whether that be children or
yeah,
maybe aging parents
yeah,
as well. The life admin, which can be so enormous
mm,
and just add to the load, the emotional labor that people carry, and, looking after themselves. There's just so much, I think, to do. And it's completely understandable that people feel like they don't have time.
yeah,
It's just existing really often, isn't it? Like that kind of
yeah,
getting from one day to the next. I think part of that is about the kind of structure of today's modern world, really, which is why both you and I love 4,000 weeks so much, because you can't do everything and you should just stop, is what
yeah,
4,000 weeks says.
yeah, yeah.
So I think with this one, I think that it is really hard to try and find time when you're existing like that.
Mm,
And you're going to need some imagination to try and figure that one out. But you're
mm,
also going to need some real intentionality about that. Because if you keep going in the way you're going, then definitely nothing's going to change. So I'm thinking about things that maybe you can put into your diary that does try and make some of that space. So if your diary is already absolutely full of meetings, then think about how you can whack another meeting in there to kind of go, well, this is my half an hour of thinking time, or maybe
yeah,
it's just 15 minutes of walking time, or,
yeah.
to actually schedule it in.
Yeah. I'm also conscious of our last guest, Emily
Mm,
Chokos-Fertil, author,
mm,
who
yeah.
said a lot of Matia, her award-winning book, was written waiting in the car for her kids between pickups and things like
Yes.
that. And she sort of squeezed some writing, which she found, such a creative outlet for her and such a positive thing. She found little sort of mini moments of time throughout the day when
Yeah.
she was sort of doing something else, which I found interesting as well. So, yeah, I must say for myself, walking, as if you have a pet, right? That's at least sort of 20 minutes every
Mm,
day. But I find for me, and I've started trying not to take my earphones with me and to sort of, I was often listening to a podcast because I'm thinking, oh, I can maximize that time. But actually, more recently, I've just been seeing that as a sort of a 15, 20-minute break and
yeah.
just allowing my brain to sort of slow down a bit. It's like how, sometimes the best ideas come to you when you're in the shower.
Yeah. Yeah,
You're
yeah.
sort of engaged in something else and it's relaxing and you can't really check your emails or
Yeah. Yeah.
when you're in there. But it's the same kind of thing. There is almost a meditative quality to it.
Yeah.
Just that kind
Yeah.
of space, building a little bit of space into the day.
And I think our phones are a big culprit of this too, right?
Yeah,
Is that
right.
this, even when we have really small moments of peace, so it might
Yeah,
even be, for example, waiting at the doctor's or waiting for appointments or whatever, we're on our phones and we're doing something. We never
right.
actually take those many moments during the day
Mm,
when we could just choose to not be engaged on our phone. And I'm the
mm.
biggest culprit of that ever. If
Me
I've got
too.
5 minutes, like, I'll check the emails or check
Yeah,
this or
right.
check that. And I think
Absolutely.
that was what Emily probably taught us was, definitely I used to go to the kids' pickup and be standing there outside of the classroom checking emails, where in fact she chose when she was sitting and waiting outside in her car that she was going to write something. So
Mm,
again, it was a really intentional choice to go, I'm
yeah.
not going to do X, I'm going to do Y because
Mm,
Y is more important to me. So I
yeah.
think that's how you have to get intentional. But I agree with you
Mm,
about the walking as well, is you know, don't, of course, you can take this podcast. No, you can't take any podcast. Like the idea is to listen to nothing. And the
mm,
other thing I think about that is driving, which is also a great
mm,
place to listen to podcasts,
mhm.
but I think is also very good thinking time. And maybe you don't have to do it all the time. Maybe
Yeah.
it's just, twice a week or in the mornings, maybe. I'm not going to listen to anything on my commute to work. I'm actually
Mm.
just going to sit there and going to think. And that's where you get the
Yeah.
heads.
And it's tricky actually to do that because we're trained to optimize our time, to
Yeah.
think, "Oh, this is excellent time where I can do something else." But you know, yeah, get the phone. And look, again, it is, isn't it? There's sometimes I'll go, oh, I'll just see what's fun stuff's on Instagram, and
Yeah,
my algorithms, they get me. They show me cute dogs doing
of
cute
course.
things. Like, this is delightful. Who doesn't like 5 to 10 minutes of just seeing dogs do cute things? But then it can often lead to longer. Then, oh, I've got my phone in my hand. Oh, I'll check. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
leads
So
on to other things, yeah.
phones are a bit of a phones.
Well, they're a sucker of the small moments that we have in the day that we might be able to be thinking about things that
Right, that's a great
might be
way of thinking
important.
about it actually, because it is, isn't it? We're not very good at sort of having those moments of quiet anymore, because there
No,
is something so desperately engaging in our hands that we can
yeah.
fill
And
in very short periods of time. Yeah.
a really great reality
Mm.
check is to look on your phone what your screen time's been that day, and it'll be hours. I
Yeah,
guarantee it'll
right.
be hours. And so the reality of that is that some of that is important and lots of it won't be. And so if you're making a choice to go on Instagram, to, get on social media, to do, I don't know, whatever it is, play games even,
Yeah,
it's fine. Of course, everyone's got a choice to do whatever they want. But if you want to be more intentional about having time to think about other stuff and how you might plan your way out of a job that you're not enjoying, then maybe you need to redirect some of that time to
yeah.
some of that thinking time.
A little bit, because it is about finding tiny little bits of time, isn't it, where you can feel like you're not constantly
Mm,
running. And
yeah,
so, yeah, taking a little 5-minute window.
yeah,
So,
on a
yeah,
regular basis, yeah.
yeah. You also had a good idea, Shayla, too, didn't you? I don't know whether you came up with this or whether you found it somewhere. I don't know. But it's good nonetheless, the OneNote document.
Yeah, well, I think like that idea of just having a note in your phone or even just a Word document or I don't know, an actual notebook, whatever it is. But when you have different ideas or just putting it down, like an idea for later.
Mm,
And so it then just becomes a bit of a repository for different ideas that you then might go back to later and research a bit later but otherwise some of these things can kind of come in your head and go out of your head.
yeah,
So I quite like that idea. No pressure to do anything with it, but let me whack it in a document. It's also very good. I think it's very good for themes,
yeah,
so if you're kind of constantly putting similar things down, then you might go, oh, that's a bit of a theme. Let me go down that
yeah,
rabbit
right.
hole. Let me explore it. Yeah. So I like that one.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea too. Or the looking at whether there's one thing you're currently doing that you could not do. Like
Yeah.
you could outsource it maybe. Are there things that, yeah, I mean, again, there's so many different ideas here, aren't there? But I just remember my eldest son, who was a rugby player and ended up playing professionally for a while. But when he was, 14, 15, 16, going through the sort of the state sort of, side and all that sort of stuff,
Mm.
and training constantly. And then actually at a certain point, I thought, wait, I don't need to be doing all this frankly revolting washing.
Yeah.
And he could do it. And he was like, oh, yeah, okay. So here's how you use the washing machine. And here's what you
Yeah.
do. And I mean, he must have been about 14 when I thought, this is actually a task, because it was quite regular, obviously, because he was training
Mm.
almost every day, when it became his responsibility. And that was a great thing that freed up just that bit of time. So, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe not the right example, but always there's something you can outsource.
Yeah, I had a similar one when I was working a lot and we did have a cleaner and she was great, but I had this thing about, changing the sheets regularly and the towels regularly and all that kind of thing. And so it was on my list every single week that had to happen. And then I suddenly thought, oh, maybe I'll ask the cleaner if she can tack that onto what she does. And so I was able to pay her 1 extra hour and she did all of the washing of all of the sheets and the
Yeah.
changing of all of the towels, and the freedom that that gave me was quite immense. So for people that
Mm,
are already outsourcing things, there might be just easy things like that you can say, I don't know, to your gardener maybe, I don't know, can you put the
yeah,
bins out on a Tuesday
yeah,
night, or I don't know, like
yeah,
easy things, just
yeah,
to kind of reduce some of that stuff that's on your
no,
list, which is
that
taking up
exactly. And there
headspace.
is, and if you have children too, that they can get involved more. And
Yeah,
bearing in mind, of course, that there is a time cost to actually showing them how to do
yeah,
it. But in the
mm,
long run, that might be able to pay off. But
yeah,
again, all sorts of different things. And it depends on the life you lead, right?
mm,
Where those gaps might be. So I just remember that being a delightful change, not having
Yeah,
to
and
handle
I remember the sheets
rub
being a
it again.
delightful change to
Yeah,
me, it was really great.
yeah,
So, yeah, so there's some ideas, but I think it is really about getting intentional. I think there probably
mm,
are moments in the day that you can grab, but it
mm,
really is about going, "Let me grab them," and be very intentional about that.
yeah,
The next one I think that people often feel stuck is around the sunk cost fallacy, and we talked about this a long time ago, Kate. I
yes,
think it might have even been in episode 2 of
it was.
series 1. Yeah?
Yes, it was 'cause I went back and checked.
Yeah.
And it was exactly because when we talked in episode 2 of season 1 about the rules that we've internalized, that
Mm.
can sometimes sort of well, I mean, it can keep us stuck, right? And I think the sunk cost fallacy, when I learned that, and actually it's my husband who is a sort of a big fan of disabusing people of the notion of the sunk cost fallacy,
Yeah. Yeah.
because that was a revolutionary concept to me
Mhm.
because I always thought, like most people, and the reason it's got a name is because most humans will buy into it. And I mean, still do to some extent, but the notion that, oh, we've invested time or money or effort into something. So to give up is or to stop, to not, because it's not necessarily giving up,
Yeah.
but to stop means that you've wasted all that time and
Mm.
energy. And I remember, well, the one, and I still think of it sometimes, it was a revolution to me when my husband said to me, I think I bought tickets to something. This was because we've been married for 30 years or whatever. So this was a long time ago. We'd bought tickets to something, or I'd bought tickets to something. And it got to the night, and I really didn't want to go, but I was like, oh, but I've bought the ticket. So I have to go. Otherwise, I'm wasting the money. And he was like, well, the money's gone, right? You've spent the money,
Yeah.
can't get it back. And if you go somewhere you really don't want to go, you're actually now also throwing time at that as well.
Yeah.
And that was like
Yeah.
my head explode with possibilities because I had not thought of it like that at all. And that
Mm.
was such a shift in my perspective.
So for people who are not familiar with the sunk cost fallacy or didn't hear us talk about it
Oh, yeah.
way
Should
back
explain.
when, yeah, the sunk cost fallacy is well, how it plays out in careers is that, should I stay in this career that I don't really like because I've
Yeah.
already invested years and years in it? I've maybe got a big debt from the study that I've done.
Mm.
I've got a professional network that I can rely upon, and I've got all of this expertise in this particular area. And so it's that psychological trap that convinces us that to keep pouring time, money, and energy into something because we've already invested so much. And
Yeah.
it's one of those big things that keep people stuck. There's some research about the sunk cost fallacy, though, right? And why it is that it's so appealing to us as
Yeah.
humans.
No, there absolutely is. And I think when their researchers at Stanford have shown that if we've put resources into something, whether it's effort,
Mm.
time, or money, our
Mm.
brain will reward us with dopamine when we get it. So the harder you've worked for something, the more your brain is going to tell you that that is valuable. But then also, too, the researchers discovered that when the thought of giving up something that you've made it a big investment in will
Mm.
actually then trigger now I don't know if I can say this properly, but the anterior cingulate cortex, which I know you know all about. But
No.
that will light up when people, subjects of the experiment, thought about quitting. And they're areas that are linked to pain and conflict in the brain. Your brain is telling you that the idea of walking away from something you have invested in is like akin to touching a hot stove or having a
Yeah.
fight with
Painful,
someone.
right.
Yeah, it's a painful thing. So that's why people like that's why the sunk cost fallacy exists, because it goes against our neural pathways. It goes against everything the brain is telling us to do.
And I think that there was one study, wasn't there, in the Journal of Economic Psychology that whilst, high cognitive ability can help a little to rationalize how it is that we're feeling, it actually doesn't get rid of the sunk cost
No,
effect. So,
no. Literally
if
how our brains are built.
yeah, so it's not something you can just go, "Oh, I need to be rational about this," because actually everyone is feeling the same. This is how your brain is. But there was also another study that suggested a way in which we can get around this?
Yes. Well, it's from Seth Godin. I don't know if people might be
Yeah.
familiar with him. He's sort of a marketing guy and written a lot of books, a lot of really good books, actually. But he talks about the sunk cost fallacy in a book called The Dip,
Okay.
and some quotes from the book. He has this thing where he says, "Your degree is a gift, but you can choose not to use it. Your experience is a gift, but not a life sentence. Your network is a gift, but it doesn't define your future options. And your expertise is a gift, but one tool in your toolkit, not your entire identity."
Mm.
So it's sort of seeing the past experiences as a gift, but you don't have to take it or use it. But the reality is, to do something different, you have to leave something behind.
Yeah, and I mean, that feels scary, right? It's just that
Mm,
it's the leaving something behind in circumstances where you don't know what's
mm,
next, you know,
mm.
and we've talked about that before on this podcast,
Yeah.
that sort of uncertainty and how you sit in that uncertainty. But there is an element of you just got to be brave. You just got to be brave to, and again, you need to try with little experiments. It doesn't have to be all in. You don't have to quit your job to try everything. And there's been so
Mm,
many examples of people that we've chatted to that have just tried things on the side and who
mm,
have just sort of gone with their passion stuff and it's resulted in something. So,
mm.
but I think once you accept that idea that you can't try something new unless you leave
No.
something behind. It's just kind of the reality, and it makes the choice a bit clearer, right?
Yeah, it does. And like we said first, you've got to build little spaces of time
Yeah.
into your day, because if you're running so hard all the time and constantly sort of having input, there
Mm.
isn't really any time or any wiggle room for your brain to start even just giving yourself time to interrogate what you have and whether
Yeah.
everything is exactly what you want. Maybe you don't need to try something completely new. Maybe you just need to make a few small changes that will make the life you're living at the moment a little easier, or
Yeah.
a little bit more authentic. The other thing I was going to say too, and I love this line, say you want to start psychology or study psychology,
Mm.
and go, oh, but if I start now, I'm 42. I'm not 42. Wish I was. I'm not 42. But if I start now, I'll be sort of 46 by the time I'm finished. It's like, yeah, but you're going to be 46 anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do you want to be 46 having done the same thing? Or do you want to be 46 and have a psych degree at the end of it? I think
Mm.
sometimes also as we get older, it's not quite the sunk cost fallacy, but as we get older, we tend to think, oh, but is it too late? I'm going to be this age, 3 years
Yeah.
this age, but yeah, you're going to be that age in 3 years anyway, if you're lucky, right?
That's right. Yeah. So the next thing that often makes people feel stuck is the golden handcuffs. So people have worked their way up, very well established in their
Mm,
careers. And then this idea of, oh, well, yeah, like maybe it is, I want to go and study psychology. This idea that they have to kind of go right back down again
yeah.
can be really uncomfortable.
Mm,
One, just because it's uncomfortable
mm,
to not be the
mm,
expert in the room when you've been
right.
an expert for a really long time, but also because there's obviously financial
Yeah.
ramifications
Yeah.
of doing that as well. And I think that that's one of these ones that is good to interrogate
Mm,
because, why I kind of can't go backwards. So let's say you do want to go and study psychology. Yes, you will finish your psychology degree and then you'll be a
mm,
graduate in the psychology degree. But
mm,
actually, I think that all of your previous life experience is really well regarded when you try something new. Like,
yeah.
I don't think you ever go back to kind of being a complete learner because so many
No.
of the skills that we learn in our career are the same across all professions, right? So I think that's a real sort of
Mm,
kill off the sunk cost fallacy idea. You know how to exist in a workplace, you know how
yeah.
to do a whole range of things, even though maybe your technical expertise is now slightly different to what it used to be before.
Yeah.
But also, if you're feeling uncomfortable about it, why are you feeling uncomfortable about it? And I reckon the answer to that is because you're thinking, what are other people going to think? Like why would they leave that big paying role
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
to kind of go and do something else? And so I think that's a rule you've probably internalized, that
Yeah.
why would anyone do that? So
Yeah.
that's a good one to really to really ask yourself about that.
Yeah.
Is that a rule or is it an actual fact? And
Mm,
then the other one is around money,
yeah.
which of course is a massive driver. And I answer that in the same way. Well, I always answer that in the same way, which is that figure out how much money you actually need. And I reckon it's much less than you think.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've got the
Because
backwards budget. We did a whole
backwards
episode.
budget. The same backwards budget because,
Mm,
yeah, are we yeah, because if you have a salary and you're working out how to spend that salary, then it's the wrong
nope.
way of thinking about it because if you think about, "Well, actually, what do I need?" And are there expenses in your life that actually you can do without? And it is interrogating, "Do I need this much space?" Or I don't know, "Do I need a fancy car or I don't know. But also too, a fundamental reset, which is the backwards budget, which Shayla came up with, is actually starting from mapping out what it is you need first and
Mm,
want. What's important to you, rather than from here's what I'm earning, this is how I'm going to spend it.
yeah. And just people just don't do that. They just work out how much they're earning and where is that all going to go. And therefore, they assume that they can't move from their job because if I'm not earning exactly the same amount or similar to it, then I won't be able to live the lifestyle that I'm living, which
Mm,
might be true to some extent. You might
mm,
not be able to continue to live the lifestyle that you're living, but maybe that lifestyle is the problem in lots of
yeah.
ways. And it's
Mm,
also just a really good audit of your finances
mm,
because you get into patterns and things. So it's just such
mm,
a really good way to sit down and go, how much do I actually need to live? And
mm,
then once you figured out how much you actually need to live, how much do I then want to spend on kind of all the fun stuff that I then want to
yeah.
do? You then get to really the answer of how much do I have to work? How much do I have to earn? So it's
Mm.
just such an important part of stopping people from being stuck.
Yeah. And alternatively, you might also interrogate your budget and go, all of these things mean so much to me.
Mm,
I love the house that we're in and I'm prepared to, do without other
yeah.
things because this house is feels like home and it's, the right size for my family or whatever. It's just perfect for me or us or
Mm,
whoever it is that you're living with. And that even going through that process can be valuable because then you might actually start to go, well, actually, this job is giving me the ability to have this. And so therefore I'm grateful to my job a bit more because, I don't know, like,
yeah. No, no. I think that that's so true.
I mean, financial I don't want to underplay the I mean, financial stress, the cost of living, that is very
Yeah.
real at the moment
Mm,
and
mm.
crazy housing costs and all that sort of thing. So, I know that there are certain things it does sound I don't want to underplay the
No,
reality of
no,
that.
I agree with you. But you do hear about people doing things like selling their houses
Mm,
in capital cities and moving regionally
yeah,
because they can get something so much cheaper. And so that's like at one end of the scale, right?
yeah,
Where people have really gone, I don't wanna be working as much as this or
mm,
working in the way that I am, and therefore I'm gonna sell this thing that I've got and try to move something to get something that costs less. So, again, that's right down the scale of that other end, and the example that you just gave, which is like, yes, this is super expensive to live in here and my mortgage is huge, but actually this is the choice that I make, and so I'm gonna stay in this and keep doing it.
yeah,
But regardless of where it is that you end up on that spectrum or on that scale, you've been intentional about it. You've been
yeah,
really clear that, yes, I'm
right,
doing this job because I love this house and I love this place, and there's absolutely no way that I would move out of it.
mm,
Or, in fact, I'm down the other end. But you know the answer to the
yeah,
question. And I think people just often haven't gone through that. So, anyway, if you haven't gone through that, do the backwards budget. The
mm,
template is on our website. And I'm thinking of doing some kind of course or something as well to help people to fill it out. So, stay tuned for that
great
one.
idea. Yep,
The other thing I wanted to talk about that people experience often is this not having enough confidence
mm,
to go and try something else. And I hear that actually a lot from women in particular who've had a period of time off, maybe after having
yeah,
children,
yep,
whether it have been that they've taken parental leave. I think that
mm,
women feel that much more acutely than men. And obviously women physically have gone through a lot often when they've had children. And so that kind of hits you a bit as well,
yeah,
but coming back and feeling a bit undervalued or
mm,
overlooked
mm,
when you've come back from that period of leave. So I think that that is really difficult when you don't feel like you've got the confidence. But I think in that space, we need to try to look at it a little bit more objectively. So, if you ask 10 people what they thought of you, what would they say? Invariably, you're going to get a completely different answer to the one that's running through your head. And actually, it's a bit imposter syndrome-ish, isn't it? In the next couple of weeks, we're talking to Alison Shamir about her book, Conquer Your Imposter. So I think we'll get some good tips out of that as well,
Yeah.
to for people that maybe aren't feeling confident.
Mm.
Having read that book, there's some really great ideas in there about how you can, challenge some of those imposter thoughts too.
Yeah. And also I think too, the to be cognizant of taking any time out of the workplace, re-entering the workplace,
Mm,
especially if you've been on parental leave, can be because you've got a completely new identity, as a
yeah.
parent. And I think that can be so there's certain sort of an identity shift, and there are realities of navigating so much more when you go back to work.
Mm.
So it might just take a bit of time to find your feet getting back into it. Yeah, and that's where the confidence of knowing you can do it, I think any sort of career break of any period of time, but particularly for something like parental leave when you, as I said, your whole identity has shifted because you're a parent now, not just someone who's working in this role.
Okay, so the last one is around that, devil you know. Are you going to sing?
No, why would I do that? Don't be ridiculous, Shayla. This is a serious podcast.
The devil you know, and, the starting again, and it's that thing of when you say to people, how's work? And they go, oh, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's like,
Mm,
fine. Could there be a worse word? I remember we've got
mm,
relatives in Austria, and whenever they used to come over, the children used to come over as well. And you'd say, hi, how you going? And they'd go, I'm fine. And I had to explain to them, yeah, that's kind of bad. Fine. When you say I'm
mm.
fine, it really doesn't imply any level of joy or that you're actually really good. In fact, it sounds pretty bad. And so when
Yes,
people say, how's work? Yeah, it's fine. You go, oh, that sounds bad.
that bad, huh?
Exactly, yeah. But so I think fine in a if you're describing your workplace, often what that means is that, it's not incredibly bad. And actually some of the advantages that I get there, I feel are very valuable. And often that's around flexibility,
Yeah,
right? You hear people describe that all the time. Oh, I've
yeah.
got quite a lot of flexibility. The work maybe isn't great,
Mm,
or
mm,
there's not very many opportunities to progress, or, whatever it is, but
mm.
actually the flexibility is quite good. And the flexibility is what is making life manageable.
Yeah,
People live on this knife edge of everything falling apart, and
right.
flexibility is the thing that means that you can manage all of the things that you're doing. And so the idea that you would walk away from that
Mm,
feels enormous.
yeah. Although, I mean, there may be options for flexibility somewhere else as well, but
Yeah.
yeah, that feeling of thinking, "I've got all these," and it might be school pickups, it might be you've got aging parents where you need to be available to for medical appointments or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that, I know this place, I know what its flaws are, but actually I can manage them.
yeah,
There's some energy that goes into learning new systems and navigating new office politics. And
yeah,
so I think what's important in this one is digging into that, the real risk versus any imagined catastrophe that
yeah.
you might be thinking. And there are some great workplaces out there that do
Mm,
have both flexibility and, fulfillment.
yeah.
Those two don't have to be mutually exclusive.
No, right, right. But again, it always does come back to time, doesn't it, too? Because
Mm,
looking for other things does require time. And so it gets back to sort of building those spaces in the day where you can start to imagine or interrogate what is important and what is not so important. Maybe there's
mm,
flexibility elsewhere, but or maybe, yeah, what are you prepared to trade off for certain things?
yeah. And I think identifying what's important to you, like what success looks like from that
Mm,
point of view, is also really important.
yeah,
So yeah, it might be that, you can work from home X amount of days per week, or, I don't know, whatever it happens to be in terms of
mm,
flexibility. Really understanding what that is means that you've got more clarity
yeah,
around then how it is that you might find that. So then it might be that if you are going to chat to recruiters, or even if other jobs
mm,
come up, you can ask those questions, as
yeah,
part
right.
of the, do I actually want this job? And
Mm,
yeah, of course, there's going to be some places that are worse than where you are.
yeah.
There's
But
going to be
you know
some
what?
places.
You can leave. You can leave that job as well,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
possible that you could go somewhere and go, "This is awful,"
Mm.
but you're not
Yes.
necessarily stuck there either.
Yes, that's right. And, leaving something that isn't right isn't failing. Even if you've just
No.
kind of just started trying it, it's like, this didn't work. I
Mm.
remember I did a job, an arbitrator role actually, because I wasn't sure that I wanted to be a lawyer anymore. And so I thought decision making might be a good thing to go into. And I just didn't like it at all.
Mm.
And I was appointed for 5 years and I left after 9 months. Well, so many things of this discussion come into that, like that whole
Yeah.
kind of, walking away from something that everyone else thought was really great
Yep.
and, all of that kind of stuff. But actually, I just knew that it wasn't a fit for me. And so I left it. And then after that, I found something that fit much more. So sometimes, yeah, you've got to just got to try things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And it's not the end of the world if you do
yeah,
if what you go to isn't actually what you want, because sometimes the only way you can find that out is by doing it.
yeah.
Yeah.
You just gotta try. You've actually gotta try things, which takes us back to our friend Anne Loch and her little experiments.
Yeah. Although in some ways, I'm not sure. Well, is leaving a job a tiny experiment or not? It can feel very immense. Certainly when I decided to leave a tenured position,
Mm,
and just to try some different things, that I was realized that, I'm at an age now, my kids have all left school. If I don't try it now, I'm not going to, this is the perfect time to do it,
yeah,
because I did give up flexibility, I guess. And there's some ways it is a big thing, but actually you can get another job. If you can get at one job, you can get another job, right?
mm.
And I guess I think you have to give jobs a go, right? But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how else you can experiment about what other workplaces look like unless you actually go and try them
No.
out, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
And
there's
know that if it's a disaster, then there are other options. If it
yeah,
really,
and
yeah. But
quite
there's
often
no way around that, is there?
no, and quite often if you're very valued at your previous role and it is like a bit of a shift, you can always say, I wanna try something. And quite often people workplaces will go, "Well, look, if it doesn't work out, feel free to come and knock on the door." So if that makes
Yeah.
people feel, like it's less of a massive leap. But I think that's a really good point that you make, Kate, that you might try things and they're not as good. And you shouldn't take that as a complete, I was right and I shouldn't have left the devil
Yeah.
out
No, no.
here, you know,
Well, I
because
did
that,
that as I left higher ed and I went back into practice. And I did actually enjoy a lot about being back in practice. But ultimately, I missed higher education. I did sort of realize that the thing that I would, if ever I heard people talk about it, and the thing that I would always engage in conversation was, if anyone was talking about legal education, I'd be jumping in there to talk about it.
yeah,
And I sort of realized how much I missed teaching. And so I ended up essentially, I'm in a different university, but I essentially ended up doing what I'd left. Yet that 2-year time out was the best
yeah,
thing I could have done for myself, because one thing, I am so sure that I'm in the right area now, and
yeah,
I had started to feel a bit stuck and a bit stale.
yeah,
I also now have an unrestricted practicing certificate again. Will I use that? I don't know. But that was as good a reason to leave and to get that year done as any. It
yeah,
was I have absolutely zero regrets about
mm,
giving up a tenured position, because in some ways that feels like a bit of golden handcuffs.
yeah,
It's very hard to leave something that is essentially a guaranteed position. So even
yeah,
though,
but it needed a little experiment
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
to
So you could
to
look at
figure
it
it
and go,
out.
"Oh,
Yeah,
that's weird. She took 2 years out. She left a tenured
mm.
job. She's ended up doing exactly what she's done before." But it doesn't feel like that. It feels like the best decision, because, as I said, I've gone back with, like, this new enthusiasm and a new appreciation for the job I get to do.
So, Outlaws, I hope that was happy or
Mm.
happy.
Happy? I hope it was happy. I hope you're happy. I hope we're all happy. May happiness bless us all.
I hope that was helpful in some way, shape, or form.
It's look, I agree. I guess we've talked through so many things, and in some ways it does depend on someone's very specific circumstances, doesn't it, as
Yeah,
to where the where the wiggle room is. And sometimes it might just be that getting that 10-minute walk in every day, or driving to work without a podcast is the thing that allows you to kind of build a little bit of space into your day. And even if ultimately you go, you know what, look, here I am now. The way that life is working is there's not much I can do to change it, and there's not much I really do want to do to change it. So this is just a season. This too shall pass. I mean, I think sometimes that's the reality as well, you know. But hopefully, there's some ideas in there that that might get people thinking if they are feeling stuck.
Yeah. So thanks for listening. As always, we do want to remind people about our book giveaway that we've got going at the moment. So the book Martia, written by Emily Chokos
Mm.
Putil.
And it is a great book. I loved this. I'm not a big fiction reader, but I loved Martia.
So I haven't read it yet. I'm very
Uh,
excited to read it. So hop onto our website and become a subscriber. That's all you need to do to be in the draw. And if you'd like an additional entry, you can just comment on one of the social media posts that we've done around the competition, and then you'll have 2 entries in the draw, and we'll send it to anyone Australia-wide. Sorry, we can't send it overseas. It'll cost us too much. So please enter if you're interested, and remember our backwards budget downloads that are on the website. You can just get those immediately emailed to you when you sign up as well. And also, can we ask special request? We'd love it if we got a few more reviews on any of the podcast platforms. So please, if you listen and you like the podcast, it would be so helpful if you could leave us a review. Pretty
it
please.
really helps other people find out about outlaws.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So thanks, Kate. Have a great rest of your week.
You too, Charlotte. Thank you, and see you next week.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.